best and worst owners in sports, and we made this one simple. We did 2 tiers. The best owners in sports over the years, and let's call it the last 45, 50 years.
Okay.
Like I didn't go back to the George Halas.
Thank you.
Okay, I didn't go quite that far back. So I tried to pick relatively modern teams, call it in the 80s and beyond. Top tier is the best owners in sports. Bottom tier is the worst owners in sports. You're either, if you're not mentioned, means you're somewhere in the middle.
So can I ask you a favor?
Sure.
Because I'm so late. Can we do the best here and then rip on the worst on the other side after the top of the hour?
Of course, absolutely. So we'll do the best before the top of the hour.
Yeah, because the best is less interesting.
Okay, so here we go. These are the best owners in sports based on me. The Rooney family, Pittsburgh. I'll explain. That has been one of the most stable, steady, consistent franchises in all of sports. They've won championships. You might hate them, but they're really a model for what a franchise should be in a lot of ways. George Steinbrenner and the Yankees, I'm sorry, he was a nut, but you know what? He wanted to win.
But really?
Yes.
Didn't he get in the way a bunch of times?
Not really. I mean, he got in the way because he was too trigger happy.
Well, yeah, he fired managers and got into beefs with players and tried to sue.
He was an ancillary character on Seinfeld because what a boob he was.
Yeah, but it all came from a good place. He wanted to win. George wanted to win. Again, a little maniacal. I would sort of agree. There was a reason he and Larry Lucchino didn't get along. They were kind of the same animal. I think the Red Sox have missed Larry Lucchino. I think the Yankees missed George Steinbrenner. Robert Kraft.
Interesting.
Say what you will, and you will, but his tenure is his tenure. He did keep the team here. They have won a lot. Jerry Buss of the Lakers, one of the preeminent brands in all of sports. His daughter runs the team now, but it's effectively the Buss family. I went a little bit back here just because this was one that was hard to ignore. The Dodgers under Walter O'Malley became who they are. He is one of the true beloved owners in the history of all sports, let alone Major League Baseball. Ted Turner with the Braves, sneaky good. Created the first real superstation, put his games on TV, although WGN in Chicago was a similar one, but Turner owned the network as well. And then on top of it, the Braves spent heavily on those teams through the early 2000s when Turner sold the team. Michael Felger and Partners, owner of the Green Bay Packers.
I like that one.
Okay?
I like that one.
So it's really about a publicly owned team, but we got compelled to throw you in there.
Attaboy.
The Packers have a good thing going. It's a well-run organization.
Best of all time.
Walter Brown of the Celtics was the original sort of great Celtics owner. What the Celtics are, their identity was forged under Walter Brown. So, again, I felt compelled to go a little back in time there with him. Jack Kent Cooke, who built the Redskins into one of the great powers, the then Redskins, one of the great powers in all of professional sports. Franchise has gone downhill since since he sold the team.
Something tells me this franchise should have guys on both lists.
Yes, correct. Very good observation. And Mark Cuban, I think you would love to have Mark Cuban as an owner. I sort of put him in the Steinbrenner category. He's not nearly as maniacal or crazy, but Cuban wants to win.
No, I've always said Wick Grossbeck wants to be Mark Cuban. Just isn't interesting enough. Mark Cuban is a more interesting version of Wick. Wick wants to be that guy. He just can't bring himself to really say anything or make any waves or whatever, where Cuban doesn't give a crap. But, no, why would you not want Cuban? Did he ever really get in the way of the basketball team?
No, and I just think most fans, many people sort of retch when they think of Cuban because he's so outspoken. He's kind of in your face. But I think as an owner of a sports franchise, he's exactly what you would want. There's also one name that's not on that list because I put it on the other list by mistake. Steve Ballmer of the Clippers. They haven't won anything, but it hasn't been for lack of trying. He's put his money where his mouth is. They've spent a crap ton.
Got a stadium built.
And again, that's another franchise that has 2 owners, one on each list.
Yes, exactly.
Which we will get to when we come back.
And maybe there might be another team, I would hope, that has owners on both lists. Anyway, those are the best owners in sports. Coming up after Murray's 90-second update, no commercials. The worst. Don't go anywhere. We've given you the best. Now comes the worst.
Yeah. Part 2, Mazz's Tears.
Let's do it.
Okay, worst owners in sports. Again, covering a wide range of eras. Peter Angelo's Baltimore Orioles. Disaster. And look, it's not football, it's not basketball. Trust me, one of the worst owners in all of sports. He's now out, but thank goodness, bad. Daniel Snyder, Commanders, another one, disaster. They had some of the worst ownership in America in that part of the country, in the Mid-Atlantic, between Angelos and Snyder, and they ran concurrently.
Reign of terror, Dan Snyder.
Tom Yawkey, Red Sox. How many years did they own the team? They never won a blasted thing. They were the last team to integrate.
Racist.
They've erased his team from the streets around the ballpark that Fenway is located on. Like, let's not overlook that one. Donald Sterling, similar story out with the Clippers. That one ended ugly. Jeremy Jacobs of the Bruins pre-lockout.
Thank you.
Very, very important distinction. Back then, the Bruins had championship caliber teams if they were willing to extend and go a little farther or further. They were not. Art Modell of the Cleveland Browns, detested by the people in Cleveland, moved the team out of there. One of the real storied franchises in the league. I skipped one. Robert Sarver of the Suns. You remember that story?
This guy, yeah.
Misogyny, racism in the organ, all kinds of stuff under him. It was a disaster under Sarver. James Dolan of the Knicks, one of the most petty, pathetic owners in all of sports. Jeffrey Loria of the Expos and Marlins, similar guy, literally stuffing money in his pockets, not using revenue-sharing money on his payroll, letting the teams rot, leveraging communities into stadiums, all kinds of stuff. Sneaky bad one, Frank McCourt, Boston-based guy at the time of the Los Angeles Dodgers. His ownership of the Dodgers was a complete mess. It was a disaster. Mike Brown of the Bengals, also one of the worst, and there were two more that I added here that I meant to include, and again, it was a little bit of a fire drill before the show. Victor Kayam of the Patriots.
Thank you.
Did that last like a year?
It was a couple.
It lasted like a year or two. They were a clown show to the point where, they had some real bad public relations scandals involving Lisa Olson. He was cracking jokes at banquets about the whole thing. It was really in poor taste. And the Sullivan family, which preceded him. That was kind of a mess, too. Bad stadium, Michael Jackson, the whole 9 yards. The franchise didn't really start to change until Bill Parcells got here, as we all know, and that was under James Bush Orthwan. But that's it. Those are your worst owners in sports.
It's hard for me to believe that James Dolan is the one that's behind the Sphere, because he is a disaster of an owner for these sports teams that he owns. But that place is a modern marvel, and he's found a way not to screw it up.
His great life achievement is the Sphere. Everything else,
Yeah.
What a colossal putz that guy is.
Big time.
Mazz, no Jim Irsay on there for worst owners.
Cross my mind.
And whoever owns the Canadiens, which I think is the Molson family. Great beer, suck owners.
Yeah, but were the owners when they were still winning? I can't remember when the Molsons took over.
Me neither.
Either way, just their provincialism. Don't you think you'd want to get with the modern times, like this whole you must speak French Canadian? Like, shouldn't you get over that at some point?
I blame the people up there in general as much as the ownership. That's just how they grow them up there.
I'm sure, as usual, that there were oversights. Jimmy, you had the Illich family on the good owners, didn't you?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, the Illiches, we should have had them.
Is that for Tigers or Wings or both?
That's for the Wings more than the Tigers, but I just put them both down there because he was owning them. But the Wings were a wagon.
But I'll tell you what, even with the Tigers, they tried. When Dombrowski was there, they spent through the nose. They tried.
And they're currently the best story in baseball over the last few weeks. They're a half game out of the wild card spot after being dead in the water.
And look, you'll note that there were some omissions. John Henry's not on the list either way. And I would say it's kind of hard to be on either one when you've oscillated between good and bad the way the Red Sox have. So the highs have been high, but the lows have been low. So at the end of the day, to me, they fall somewhere in the middle. They should have been on the best list, given where they were 10 years ago. They're not.
Grossbeck's not on there?
I'm sorry, Mazz. Did you have Irv Grossbeck and Pags on there?
Did you have the Grossbeck?
I did not, because I don't know if they really did it long enough.
I mean, Irv has 2 championships.
He does.
It's true.
He does.
Jimmy Irv.
So, I don't know. You could argue they should be on there. I don't. Look, they've been good owners. I don't know if they're the best in sports. I don't, to me, what has been achieved with some of those other franchises exceeds what the Celtics have done.
That pig Jerry Richardson, who owned the Panthers, probably should have been on.
That's a good one, Murray.
Yeah,
it's a good one.
If you like that clip, check out more videos from Felger and Mazz here. For more Patriots analysis and opinion, hit this playlist. And for all the latest from the Sports Hub, download the app at 985thesportshub.com.